evening to all. I am called upon to rather make a critical analysis of the Hindu Succession Act, particularly Section 6. Section 6 had created a lot of controversy, and the interpretation each day by the judges of the Supreme Court and our court appears to be rather a bit different. I am not going to say they are wrong, a bit different. And everything started on account of Gurupad in 1978. Had Gurupad moved into the earlier position of law and as well as the impact the law actually wanted to secure on the mode of succession among Hindus, much of the present dispute would have rather not arisen at all. Let me put it very simply. First, I will rather, since there are many juniors, I will say what is a Mitakshara, a Dayabhaga, the difference between a Mitakshara and a Dayabhaga. Seniors like P.R. Ramakrishna need not trouble themselves for 5-10 minutes, because I see many of the seniors here. I should not be sitting here, they should be sitting and rather teaching us. This is the position I share here. Fortunately, I have been given an opportunity. Entire issue is, in respect of a Mitakshara law, there are certain aspects which are really important, in contradistinction to Dayabhaga. In respect of a share, every member of a Mitakshara have a right to demand a partition. 2, it is not a fixed share that everyone could rather say, this is my share at any particular point of time. It fluctuates. As and when a gentleman dies, the share increases. A gentleman comes into the family, the share reduces. This is how it functions. And most importantly, so far as Mitakshara is concerned, the ancestral relationship is very much recognized to at least 3 generations in the before us and 3 generations after us. This is ancestral property. And so far as the descendants are concerned, what is more important is the community of interest and unity of possession in the comparisonary that each and every one could rather have in respect of the property. Am I clear so far as, am I clear to the juniors? Then, when you come to Dayabhaga, the right of partition accrues only on the death of a owner. Share of a co-parsoner is always fixed and it does not fluctuate. And partition can only be in the form of division by metes and bounds. Why I am saying all this? As far as Hindu Succession Act is concerned, it did not touch the Dayabhaga. It rather attempted to interfere only so far as Mitakshara group is concerned, not the Dayabhaga. In fact, if you see the discussion even in the 1956 Act, I will rather place it before, if Mr. Srinivasa Ravan could rather show it on the screen, what the minister had spoken to, he had very clearly said, we are not destroying the system, we maintain the system but give a little share. I will just trace the history, thereafter I will come to what Mr. Pataskar had said at that point of time. This is the basic difference where they wanted to give certain rights to the women in the family. How it started? The entire presumption appears to be, so far as Mitakshara form of system is concerned, they don't give any right to the women. That is wrong. Literally, they may not be right at that point of time. The women, in respect of the separate property of the main member, are entitled to certain rights. In respect of, I am speaking about prior to 1937. In respect of the family holdings, which I may call it as a joint family, they also are entitled to some rights in the absence of a son. Thirdly, and most importantly, it is not as if they are totally denuded of the rights. If you see the Hindu Women Right to in the Inheritance Act of 1929, certain people were introduced into the system. Certain people were introduced into the system. This is what I gave by way of notes. This you can rather communicate to the juniors at a later point of time.
Yes, sir.
Srinivasa Ravan, can
I can. I have already committed that. It is being displayed now.
This is the one. Can you go to the second page?
Parthi, second place, please. Second page.
And so far as coparcenary form of system is concerned, I have spoken about the Hindu joint family, then we'll go to the coparcenary. In a male Hindu joint family, the male members are called the coparceners or co-sharers. These are all two fundamentals for many of the seniors here. And I have already said the interest of each and every member will be fluctuating. I would have rather relied upon the judgment of 1953 Orissa and 10 Bombay High Court, page 444 of Mano Vishwanath. The only interesting point is the coparcenary is not the creation of a statute nor an agreement between the parties. Why I am saying this is, it is a right by birth to every person who are born in the family of a Hindu governed by the Mitakshara law. For this, you can look into 1962 Supreme Court 287, 67 Supreme Court 272, and AR 1976 Supreme Court page 109. 109 is a very interesting piece, a judgment written by Justice Chandrachud, whose judgment I am going to comment upon adversely later in point of time, when it comes to Gurupad. 76 Supreme Court 109 is a very interesting piece where he deals with the entire concept of the Hindu coparcenary. So one thing one has to make it clear, I would request the junior member to remember, it is not a right that is conferred upon by any statute on a Hindu. It is a right by birth. As soon as a male Hindu is born, or even if it is rather in the fetus, his right in respect of the property is assured. Am I clear? Then, as soon as he is born, his right to demand a partition from the Karta is also assured. He can also tell the Karta, in case he is going to alienate the property, it is not in the interest of the family, either through somebody who could represent him. Then, as I already said, a coparcener acquires his right by birth, and when the family is joined, the extent of the share of the coparcener cannot be definitely predicated, since it is capable of fluctuation. Am I right? Then, as I have already said, it increases by death and decreases on the birth of a coparcener. These are the basic concept between what is the right of a coparcener, what is a Hindu joint family, and then let me take you to what is ancestral property in Mitakshara. Under a Mitakshara law, the male succeeds to the property of his father, father's father, father's father's father, all as of right. And normally, if this is a mode by which an inheritance comes, we call it as apratibandha daya or unobstructed heritage. And then apratibandha Sanskrit, we will say it as unobstructed heritage. If I am going to make a claim from a father or father's father or great grandfather, it is by way of a right, and I am entitled to deal with it as a owner of the property. If at the same time, if I am going to secure the property through, let me assume through my maternal side, it is called an obstructed heritage. These are all the fundamental concepts so far as the nature of property, whether it is a joint Hindu farm property or a coparcenary property, or the nature of property is more important. And then you might ask me, what is the difference between a Hindu joint family and a coparcenary property? For instance, I can create an Hindu joint, or rather I would say myself, my son, my father, my son's wife, my mother, all of us could constitute, and my sister, unmarried sister, could constitute an Hindu undivided family. As far as coparcenary is concerned, only the male members could form part of it. Am I right?
Yes.
We are going to speak about a joint family. We think about the relation, Sapinda relationship, if I may put it like this. A Sapinda relationship where myself, my father, my mother, my wife, my son, my daughter. So far, so long as she is unmarried, as soon as she is married, she moves away from the family. She will not form part of the Hindu joint family. As far as coparcenary is concerned, it is only the male folks, nobody else. This is where a change was sought to be made. Then let me come to the inheritance part of it of 1929, where even though the daughter's daughter, son's daughter and sister were not sapindas, they were sought to be introduced. Just go up, you can see that. They were sought to be introduced and made entitled to certain rights immediately after father's father and before father's brother. This is a small rather introduction to certain third parties who are not originally recognized as sapindas into the family fold for conferring certain benefits. This was in 1929. Then in 1937 came the Hindu Women's Right to Property Act. What exactly did this act do? Earlier, the women were not, the wives, the widows were not taken care of. To give certain benefits, the daughters were taken care of, the son's daughter was looked into, the daughter's daughter was taken care of, but not the widow. This small error in legislation which did not take care of the widow was sought to be remedied by introduction of the Hindu Women's Right to Property Act of 1937. Here again we have to see they have not been given an absolute right in respect of the property. They were given only a limited estate in respect of the property which her husband had. Let us be very clear, not the entirety of the property, the share which her husband had in respect of the property. This, the other day, Mr. Subramaniam had clarified, the federal court had, whether an agricultural property could be a subject matter. Ultimately, they said agricultural property cannot be included and it is not the subject. I am not troubling myself on that. Yeah, you have already heard the lecture given by Mr. Subramaniam. Then came the 1956 Act. When the 56 Act, one has to be very clear what exactly the purport was. Whether the Parliament intended to abolish, this is where my subject comes. The subject to which I was called upon to address clearly rather emerges. In 1956, a committee was constituted. Even earlier in point of time, in 1951, B. N. Rao committee was there. B. N. Rao committee submitted a report where they said, where they spoke about the abolition of Mitakshara system of law. They said this Mitakshara system of law should be abolished. The entire country should be replaced by Dayabaga. This was the rather recommendation that was made by the committee. This was not accepted. Then a committee was constituted which was to go into, and they filed a report by which they said the Mitakshara system of the Mitakshara school should continue. It should not be abolished, but certain rights have to be conferred upon the women. This is what exactly I had taken. Certain rights have to be conferred upon the women. If you kindly take the Pataskar report, Mr. Srinivasaraman, can you go to page 5? It says, Pataskar committee report on section 6 clearly says, the Lakshmi Achiki no konja kila vangu. Kindly see 6. The Hindu succession bill was moved before the Lok Sabha on 13/12/1955. And thereafter it was passed by the Rajya Sabha. Pataskar really discloses the purpose for which section 6 was introduced. Section 6 was the subject matter of hard discussion before the committee. And if you see the last line, kindly go below, sir.
அடுத்த பேஜ் பா.
இல்ல அடுத்த பேஜ்ல அதே பேஜ்.
இதுலயே கீழ லாஸ்ட்ல.
If you see here, he makes it very clear. The daughter is made and her along with her son the property of the father. She gets no immediate interest in the property of the father, unlike the son in the joint Mitakshara family, and will be entitled to a share along with the son only after the death of the father. Be clear, it was not given a right by birth, after the death of the father, certain rights are conferred, and that too in respect of the property, whether separate or joint, he may have left at the time of his death. Therefore, they carve out an interest in the property which his father had to the daughter, nothing more. Then the entire misconception, he says, the daughter is elevated to the status of the son may not be right. Then kindly see over the page. Over the page. He says it's fictional. The entire division is fictional, and that the entire division is fictional, and that the daughter cannot assert the right in their property as that of a son. Even this, he has made it very clear. Where you would find the death of the father and the two in respect of the property, whether separate or joint, which he may have left at the time of his death. Then if you kindly see how exactly it is assessed, this is more important. All of us are under the impression, if you see the judgment of Justice Chandrachud in 1978 Supreme Court, he reads section 6 in such a manner. He says as soon as a father dies, and rather a division in the family takes place, rather notional division in the family takes place as if he is alive. The female members, if they are present, their certain shares are being allotted to them. It is very clear so far as that aspect is concerned. But where exactly he missed the point, he says as soon as the father dies, he doesn't treat it as a fictional division or a notional division. He treats it as a real division amongst the members of the family. This is where he commits the error. This was never the intendment of the legislature. Had he looked into the objects and reasons, or at least the discussion or debate that had taken place in the parliament, that mistake couldn't have been committed. I would also take you through the earlier judgments where they made it very clear in 65 Supreme Court, 67 Supreme Court as to what exactly the position of the lady. Unfortunately, when it came to 1978 Gurupad, which had been adopted by various other decisions of this Honorable Court, as well as by the Supreme Court, the error rather stares at our face. Now, kindly see how exactly the parliamentarians wanted it to happen. Said, as soon as the father dies, we had earlier in point of time a system of estate duty. A person who belongs to the Mitakshara form of system, if he dies, the rights in respect of the property rather is not by inheritance. Automatically it goes to the remaining members of the family. Therefore, the entire issue is where exactly the levy can be made. Therefore, under the Estate Duty Act, they made a formula. They deemed as if the gentleman was alive, carved out his interest in respect of that property and evaluated it, thereafter distributed and levied whatever in the hands of the deceased member, which these people are going to inherit at a later point of time. The co-parcenary in turn continues. The property of the deceased also comes to the co-parcenary. What was assessed is the value of the property which they determined based on a division which they had rather determined. If you kindly see the answer that Mr. Pataskar gives in 1953, referring to the fictional notional partition, referring to the fictional notional partition to determine exactly, to determine the share of the deceased, Pataskar states that the idea was borrowed from the Estate Duty Act, what I have earlier said. As honorable members are aware, when an estate duty was passed, a similar question had arisen. Estate duty is a measure of taxation of property which comes to a person by inheritance. In India, in the case of a large number of people who are governed by Mitakshara system of Hindu law, there is no inheritance with respect at any rate to the joint properties which are held by the families concerned. This is what I have said. Now comes the fiction. If all such properties or any interest in such properties were to be excluded from the estate duty because they devolve by survivorship and not by inheritance, it would have been defeated the very purpose for which the estate duty was proposed to be levied. This is precisely the same. It was therefore then decided that for the purpose of taxation, the interest of the deceased co-partner should be treated as if his interest in the co-partnership property had been separated from the rest of the co-partnership property just prior to his death. Following up his the precedent, a similar method had been evolved for the purpose of giving a female heir a share in the property of the deceased member of the joint family co-partnership, and just as the purpose of the estate could be achieved without actually disrupting the joint Hindu family governed by the Mitakshara school of law, the bill has proceeded to give a share to a female heir on the basis without necessarily disrupting the joint family. This is the principle. This is the principle by which the entire statute was rather placed and promulgated. And if you see below, a question was specifically posed by one Mr. Deshpande. He asks a question whether by virtue of the death of the father, the joint status of the sons would be severe. The answer is no, it will not be. Why I am pointing out to the entire structure of the discussion, I have not rather quoted the entire, it runs to several other pages. I have taken the most important one where they dealt with section 6. When they deal with section 6, they make it very clear we are not destroying the co-partnership system of law. We are only rather giving a share to the lady. We are very clear, even after giving, rather determining the share, the joint family continues. Kindly see, this is where it is important how we have deviated from what the legislature had thought, where the parliamentarians had really envisaged. Then kindly come to Pataskar summarizing his own bill. Sir, this bill, the joint family of Mitakshara type is not abolished. But if you see of late, many of us are under the misconception, particularly after 1956 and 2005, rather gives more doubt as to whether Mitakshara system of law still subsists. Some say the entire system had been destroyed. In reality, if the law as envisaged is applied, nothing is destroyed. The law continues. By this bill, the joint family of the Mitakshara type of law is not abolished, and that is the main difference between the bill and the provisions of the lapsed Hindu code. Kindly see what he says, lapsed Hindu code. When he speaks of the lapsed Hindu code, he speaks about B.N. Rao's rather recommendation that has been made. B.N. Rao said, abolish it. We don't want this system of law. He will rather equate it with Dayabhaga. Let the co-partner, senior most co-partner karta take the entire control, deal with the property as he likes. Even if he sells the property, the junior members cannot rather assert. Till the junior members rather assume charge on elimination or rather succession, they don't have any right in the property as we have by birth. In the next clause, you may also see. At the same time, this is important, at the same time, the daughter is given a share in the property of her father, even if he was a co-partner in a joint Hindu family, to the same extent as an undivided son. That's all. Now, if you kindly see how exactly the interpretation had gone. Take Gurupad. If you see Gurupad in 1978 Supreme Court, the error Mr. Chandrachud had done, it may not be available on the screen. 1978 Supreme Court 1239. Chandrachud rather says in paragraph 13, just four lines in paragraph 13. What is therefore required to be assumed after rather deciding upon the shares of the party concerned says, what is therefore required to be assumed is that a partition had in fact taken place between the deceased and his co-partners immediately before his death. This is where the error comes. When the interpretation was sought to be made, normally, if you see the section, you say you will rather have the section rather indicated, you may kindly go to the interpretation made and the section as it stood earlier. when a male Hindu dies after the commencement of the Mitakshara, having at the time of his death an interest in the Mitakshara Kopasnari property, his interest in the property shall devolve by survivorship upon the surviving members of the Kopasnari and not in accordance with law. Let us be very clear. The Kopasnari, if it is sought to be rather destroyed, then it would not say the surviving members rather would continue to enjoy the property, applying the old law of Mitakshara school. The change was introduced only by the proviso. The female member interferes, deemed division comes. Kindly see. If the Koparsanas had no female at all, if it is going to be the father, son, the great-grandfather and grandfather, all the female members are not there, no daughter, Koparsanari continues. But as soon as a marriage takes place, the wife doesn't become a Koparsana. Son comes, once again, son will be a Koparsana. When the Koparsanari rather undergoes a change for the purposes of carving out an interest, kindly see, provided if a deceased has left behind him a surviving a female relative specified in class 1, that's all. A male member, a male relative specified in that class who claims to through that female, the interest of the deceased in the Mitakshara Koparsanari shall devolve by testamentary or intestate. And then if you kindly come to, and not by survivorship, if you come to the explanation, it says, for the purpose of this section, the interest of the Mitakshara Koparsanar shall be deemed to be a share in the property. That means no division. Deemed to be a share. Unfortunately, when Gurupad was rather interpreted, what exactly he did, he had rather construed it as an actual division in the property. Now one has to see the history of how exactly it came. Sometime in 1966, the law in Bombay as it stood was, it is only a deemed division, not actual division. It is in 66. Thereafter, the judgment of 1966 was doubted by Chandrachud. As a single judge, he doubted the correctness of the judgment. Matter was referred to a division bench. The division bench, it was heard by Justice Patel. Patel reviews his own order. That I have also rather quoted in my notes. He reviews his own order, by which he says there should be an actual division. Then the matter goes to the full bench in 1975 Bombay. 75 Bombay affirms what was earlier said. Best part is, the matter comes before Chandrachud in 1978 in Supreme Court. What opinion he had while he was sitting in Bombay, he confirmed his opinion there saying, yes, this is the law of the full bench, therefore I accept it. The entire issue is, had Mr. Chandrachud taken the effort of looking into the language, the error in rather terming the division as permanent wouldn't have arisen at all. 1978, you see the after effects later in point of time. What happened in 1970? The same mistake. Chandrasen comes later in 1986. So far as the analysis of law in 1978 is concerned, it is an error on account of the erroneous construction of a plain and simple language of the explanation. It says deemed division. Had he taken into consideration the word deemed division as notional, the error would not have been there. This is so far as Gurupad is concerned. Then you might also rather look into another angle. If Koparsanari was sought to be destroyed for all times to come, the situation would have been, they would have said in one simple word, the Hindu Koparsanari, Hindu Mitakshara Koparsanari no longer exists. The entirety of the property rather shall devolve in a particular manner. They need not even refer to 6, remove 6, take it to 8. Then some question might be posed to me on, what is the purpose of rather the division there? If you kindly see, as soon as we carve out the rights of the lady or the class 1 legal heirs, we fix them separately so far as you are not going to see only as one branch as subsisting. there are several other branches. For instance, I may have a Koparsonary along with my Chittappa or three of my father's brother. When we come to, when we see so many other persons, you rather find this Koparsony rather having a fluctuating interest at various points of time. In all the cases where the Supreme Court were called upon to rather probe into, it was the father, the son, and either be it in Gurupad or in even in 1979 Supreme Madras page 1, Karpanna Chettiar, or in Chandrasen, these are all cases of father and son. It is not widely, rather you don't see the Koparsonary as only one branch. It can also be a branch which should be extended. What all has to be seen is whether it comes from a common stock. That's all. The common stock can have a branch. All the male folks rather can hang in one group. The entire issue that was lost before the court was, they took into consideration only one particular stock, namely one branch of it, rather determined the law based upon it. There number and other things are, that we can have it later. Please do not rather flash it now. The entire issue now is whether can we decide upon, I'll just give an example like this. If you are going to interpret the law as Mr. Chandrachud has done, it is case of a father dying. Imagine a case where a son dies. Father, son, the mother is there. The legal heir of the son would be the mother. There may be another son. As soon as one of the son dies, the mother gets a share. If you are going to apply the principles of what Mr. Chandrachud had said, that means there is going to be an actual division, a separation even while the husband was alive. This is not the law which was really proclaimed by the legislative parliamentarians. He had seen it only as a property and a widow being benefited. He had not seen the effect of what when the son dies, the mother gets a share. Would there be rather a division as between the father and mother and the other son? So my submission or my humble rather consideration for the viewers, the entire error that has been committed is treating a notional division as an actual division in 1978. This would be this is the first error that has been committed. Then if you see sections 6 and section 8, if you see section 8, it speaks of earlier in point of time. It speaks of the property of a male dying intestate shall devolve according to the provisions of this chapter. That means it speaks about a separate property of the male. It doesn't think about the Koparsonary. The division so far as if you treat section 6 as a division notionally and the Koparsonary continues, the issue would not be there. In fact, it was very finely decided by Justice Venkatramaya, which is a 3-bench judgment. Unfortunately, Venkatramaya's judgment, though cited in Uttam, they did not see the relevance of the judgment so far as that case is concerned, where they have also clarified the judgment in Gurupad. Kindly see 85 Supreme Court, page 716. It is a case of State of Maharashtra versus Narayan Rao. A very specific question was rather raised so far as actual division is concerned in respect of the property on the death of a Koparsonary. The court said, clarified Gurupad and said, the court did not mean the way it rather really interpreted. If you kindly see para 9, the answer is obvious. We have, this is almost the very same principle that has been one of the Koparsonary. The wife comes into the foray. The entire issue was something 85 to SCC, page 321, that is right. We have carefully considered the above decision. I'm only reading only for a limited purpose of pointing out how exactly there had been an explanation, right? A 3-bench judgment of the court, which was unfortunately not considered by any of the later judgments, where they clarify what Gurupad had said. We have carefully considered the above decision and we feel that this case has been treated as an authority for the position that when a female dies who inherits an interest in the joint family property under Section 6 of the Act, a suit filed for partition expressing a willingness to go out of the family should be entitled to get both the interest she had inherited and the share which she would have got notionally allotted to her as stated in explanation 1 of Section 6. This is where the entire position is. What it cannot be an authority for the proposition that she ceases to be a member of the family on the death of the male member of the family whose interest in the family devolves on her without her volition to separate herself from the family. Therefore, the intention should be on the lady. It is not a presumption, or it cannot be forced by a judgment of the court wherein it says, I divide the property. If my mother wants to continue, let me rather the same example which I have given. The property on the death of the son goes to the mother. If she wants to continue with the family, can the court say, no, I presume a division? This was explained by Justice Venkatramaya sitting along with Chinnappa Reddy and another. Unfortunately, while interpreting the provisions of Section 6 in later judgments, including our Madras High Court, I won't blame Govinda Nair. Govinda Nair had come from Kerala, where the joint family system was abolished in 1975. Probably that had gone deep into his mind. As far as Madras is concerned, in fact, if you see the difference between the Madras school and the other school, even in allotment of share, it is different. If you see Gurupad, the widow would have been given a share, and then the husband was deemed to be alive, and a share is given to the widow from and out of the estate of the husband. This was clarified later, even in 1985 Supreme Court, where the learned judges said this aspect of the case is unavailable to the Madras school. That means Madras school means it also includes Andhra Pradesh. In fact, I attempted to exploit the judgment of Gurupad by using it before Justice Subramanian. He said, don't try to alter the law, let us follow the law as it is. And this was way back in 1999-2000. See, this is the position of the judges who knew Hindu law so well. But unfortunately, I'm not saying some error had taken place somewhere. Kindly, this is not the only way rather to interpret the law. You also see Section 8 as well as 10. 8 rather speaks about the property that belongs to the individual. As I have said earlier, when it comes to rather movement of how exactly the property is divided, if it is going to be a coparcenary property, there are several branches. Each of the branch, it goes by per stripes. For instance, the grandfather is there, he has 4 sons. Each of the sons will have 1/4. This is per stripes. And when it comes to a particular branch and a division taking place in that branch, it is per capita. So one cannot look into Section 6 to decide what was the intention of the legislature. You should also link it to the other provision as to whether the inheritance in the form of what was set forth in Gurupad was right. Kindly see Section 10 now. If you see Section 10, the distribution is made per capita as amongst the members of the family, one branch of the family. It says the intestate widow, if there are more widows than one, they shall take a share. The surviving son and daughters and mother shall take 1 share. And then the heads of the branch of the deceased son or the predeceased daughter shall take another share. All these things indicate per capita form of distribution. If it is going to be per stripes, it is on a coparcenary property. If it is going to be per capita, branch. Then if you kindly come to Section 19, all these things are indicative of the fact as to how exactly the parliamentarians wanted the property to be treated. They clarified under Section 6, the property shall be dealt with as coparcenary. The moment a female under Class 1 comes, a division, notional division takes place. So far as that coparcenary is concerned, leaves it intact. The rest of the family members along with the lady can also rather enjoy. It is not only the lady, the class 1 legal heir includes the son as well as the daughter. Then kindly go to section 10, where it says if it is going to be a property where a proper division is going to take place, it is per stripes so far as branches are concerned, per capita so far as one of the branches concerned. Then kindly come to 19. 19 makes it obviously clear. Mode of division of succession of two or more heirs. If two or more heirs succeed together to a property of an intestate, they shall take the property, save as otherwise expressly. This save as otherwise expressly provided in this act has been overlooked by many judgments. Per capita and not per stripes. This is important. Therefore, when the division is sought for, it is only the per capita division amongst a branch. Per stripes is not rather included. Then it is not joint tenancy, but tenants in common. When we speak about a joint family or a coparcenary, it is joint tenancy. When we speak about a division amongst the members of a family, we speak about per capita and tenants in common. This is the if three provisions had been properly understood, the error would not have taken place in group. Let me rather point out one more which would have had an impact. If you see my notes at H, I rather what all has taken place earlier in point of time in 1975 Supreme Court, 65 Bombay law reports, the participation of Chandrachud. It is on page number 10, my notes which I had sent to you, where I have very clearly said why the law rather took a shift. Probably Chandrachud was at that point of time eager to do something more, wanted to confer a benefit upon the ladies, an absolute right. But the error is, parliamentarians did not want. Unfortunately, he had done it. Now let us go to State of Maharashtra. I have also set forth in page number 12. Page number 12. This is then the decision reported in Krishna Prasad. In fact, if you see Krishna Prasad case in 2018, 7 SCC in Shyam Narayanan Prasad versus Krishna Prasad. They say a right by birth is given to a son. That is why when to the junior members I have said, so far as seniors are concerned, I need not even say where you very clearly find right of birth is assured to any Hindu coparcenary. As far as the rights are concerned, as by birth is recognized even in 2018 7 SCC page 646. These are all there in notes, you need not trouble yourself. Let me go to Karupan Chettiar and Chandrasen. Same error had been committed. Chandrasen, I will go to first Karupan Chettiar and thereafter touch Chandrasen. Karupan Chettiar, Paniyappan Chettiar was there, his son Karupan. There was a division among the family. The division to the effect was certain property had gone to the father, certain other property to him, his son. It is a matter which pertains to an income tax, not a dispute between inter se members or coparceners. He declares certain property which he had got from the father as an individual property. Certain other property which he had got in the division, he had shown it as an HUF. The income tax authorities raised an objection there can't be two different modes. In fact, this is quite different with the judgment of the High Court, where they took a different view, where they said that you can't have different mode. If you get the money, property from your father, it shall be treated as the proper joint family property. The matter goes before the full bench. In the full bench, the argument was you cannot have two different forms. If you see 78 Supreme Court, there is no major discussion on the subject at all. Hardly 4 pages before the full bench. Hardly one paragraph so far as the entire law is concerned. If you kindly see 79 Madras page 1. Very interesting. Last paragraph. In one just paragraph, the entire law on the subject had been upset. We have dealt with the effect of section 8. This is how it proceeds. We have dealt with the effect of section 8 earlier, and it is clear here that Karuppan Anon took the property of his father Paniyappa, which the later has obtained in the partition, and irrespective of the question whether it was an ancestral property in the hands of Karuppan or not, kindly see, irrespective of the question whether it is in the hands of Karuppan or not, he would exclude his son. How? If I have a property which in a partition from my father, as soon as my son is born, he is entitled to as of right. Where is the question of saying, my son after his birth, he might not have a right in respect of the property? Kindly see what exactly the learned judges, the mistake has been committed. He would exclude his son, since the existing grandson at the time of the death of the grandfather had been excluded. Where he makes a mistake, he looks into section 8, he looks into class 1, who are those are the persons who are mentioned in class 1, and then comes to a conclusion, it is not an ancestral property. This is where he makes a mistake. The character of the property in the hands of my father, even after division, as long as he had not disposed of the property in favor of any third party during his lifetime, and on his death, the property which comes into my hands as a successor, my son, since I did not earn that money, it is not my private property. Only by virtue of the fact I being the son of my father I get it, my son automatically gets it by birth. This is where the entire error was committed by Justice Govinda Nair. He presumes, since the grandson name is not indicated, this great grandson name is not indicated in the schedule, I don't have a right. The entire problem is it would not be indicated in class 1, because the son assumes the position of a karta on the death of the father. Being a senior member, would rather share along with his son. Where is the question of rather saying, I get the property? Absolutely. Once you look into Learning Act of 1930, everything would be ready. It would be clear. Unless otherwise I acquire the property myself on my own, I might have used the money that I have got from the family for educating myself. This property which I have earned on my own alone would be my separate property. That would have an impact under section 8, and those property which comes by division under section 6, between the father and son, between the family members, this continues to retain the character of coparcenary property till such time the property is sold by the sole coparcener at some point of time. The property continues in the family. Unfortunately, Govinda Nair commits a basic error of saying the son's name is not indicated in class 1, therefore property belongs to the son. This error, on account of this error, 1979 Madras 1 full bench at page 5, the entire law on the subject of succession had changed. One has to rather remember, when it comes to income tax, the law is entirely different so far as the taxation is concerned. It is a levy. Right to property is concerned, it is a family, it is under the family law. If the court had segregated both of them, for levy of tax, it is entirely, one can't escape the consequence. Carve out, fix the price, take the levy. There is nothing wrong. But on the other hand, if you are going to say this carving out principle itself is division, there comes the error. This was not the intention of the legislature, nor the purport of a correct interpretation of the law. Just don't read section 6 alone. Go to section 6. What is the real interest in section 8? If you see section 6, it speaks about Mitakshara property. If you go to section 8, it speaks about the property of a male Hindu. It doesn't speak about any joint family property. All error is on account of the fact they rather treat the divided property in the absence of sale as a separate property. If this error is reduced or if this error is removed, then the law is clear. Subramaniam, the other day, Mr. Subramaniam had said, lots of confusion had arisen only on account of, the court rather says, we have to rather, in the form of division, separate property and the coparcenary property. If you treat the property which has come from the hands of my father as a coparcenary property, and the property which I got in the form of partition also as coparcenary property, there is absolutely no confusion at all. That should be the right law. Where is the question of same? It is only the the fact that the water is separated and kept in a vessel, ultimately unused, come back to me. It doesn't rather assume a different character. As simple as that. Unfortunately, this simple principle had gone ignored. Then let us go to, this is so far as Karupan Chettiar. Chandrasen commits the same mistake. Concentration of Chandrasen, if you see all the Chandrasen also a father, a son, a wife. Even in Chandrasen, there is no difference at all. The entire issue was on the basis of 8 and 19 there. Section 6 was not even taken into consideration. Had they taken section 6 into consideration, you can say Chandrasen had something to be looked into. And once again, it is on a taxation case. It is not one which arose. I am not going to say taxation case is not laying the law. I am only going to, I am rather pointing out the limited purpose for which a taxation law should be looked into. It is only to carve out, levy a tax and then take it to the coffers, not beyond that. You can't put the entire Hindu legislation to coffin by rather interpreting a law which requires something to be taken out from a property for the purposes of enriching the coffer. This is my simple argument. Let us go to, this is so far as Karupan Chettiar is concerned, Chandrasen and the earlier one of 1978 Supreme Court. If you come to 2000, I would only point out, can you go to page number 17, sir? For the completion of narration, it would say Pataskar corresponding to section 19. Kalpana Abdullah. Three, the speech of the law minister. Exactly. If you kindly see there, just go a bit up. Can you go to the previous page, sir? Exactly. Exactly. If you see, clause 21 corresponds to clause 19, section 19. While dealing with section 19 or clause 21, the very similar issue was raised. It was pointed out that when we are considering clause 6, kindly see, by Pandit Thakur Das Bhargava, that clause 21, which is section 19, in spite of what we have done in clause 6, is going to disrupt the joint family. Kindly see the word disrupt the joint family. I will avoid going into a discussion as to what the ultimate result of this will be. I will deal with when a future occasion arises during the consideration of this bill, but I may tell you that, as promised, I sincerely felt that it were possible I might find out a way. The point is that as far as clause 21 is concerned, as it was pointed out by Shah and probably by Pandit Thakur Bhargava, this applies not only to the coparcenary property, but all manner of properties and to the properties inherited from both male and females. Therefore, the question arises as what can be done to avoid some result which had contemplated by passing of clause 6. If you see a bit further, you would say, he gives an example as well. He says when a division had taken place, the daughter gets ₹1,000. I will not trouble since my Mr. Srinivasa Raghavan is going to circulate, you can have it. He says when the daughter rather gets ₹1,000, it would be a share. when the family share, if the family owns a property, say around 9,000, the father's share is around 3,000. On a division that takes place on the death, a deemed division that takes place on the death of the father, it is going to be 3,000 for all the 3 children. This daughter's share would be 1,000. The 2,000 which we are speaking about continues to form the coparcenary along with the remaining 6,000, which the son, both the son had. Therefore, the question of dividing the family, and let me say, you may also look into a very incongruous scenery. If father is there, 2 sons are there, daughter is also available. If you are going to treat the father's 1/3 share as the division, son owns a right in respect of the father as a class 1, as per the judgment of Justice Chandrachud. If I get a share of 1/3, that means 1/3 of, it will be 1/6 in me and 1/6 in my brother. The problem would be 1/6 of a separate property and 1/3 of a joint family property. This looks absurd. The property should be seen as a whole unless a member of the coparcenary or the ladies in the family say, I don't want to live with you, I want to have a division. In all other respects, it continues as a joint family. Therefore, section 6 has to be read in such a way as to maintaining the property intact, giving the right of liberty to the lady to rather seek for a division in case she wants to. If she doesn't want to, she can continue in the coparcenary. There is one fantastic judgment of the court reported in 1965 Supreme Court 825. That was a case where, it's a very interesting case, I wouldn't have given in the notes. 1965 Supreme Court 825. This was Lakshmi versus Krishnamma. Hindu Women Rights to Property Act, a lady makes a demand in 1938. Thereafter, there was a division in the 4 members were there in the family. On the day on which her husband died, 3 of the other brothers were alive. By the time when she filed a partition suit, 2 more died. Then the entire issue that arose before the court was, what is the share of that lady? The court said, her right is 50%. The fluctuation in interest should also be taken into consideration. But if you are going to strictly apply the analogy of section 6, let me assume then, section 6, you crystallize the share of that lady at 1/4. This 1/4 cannot develop at a later point of time. On the other hand, Supreme Court construed it saying, the husband's right should also be rather given. If the husband had been alive, he would have been in a position to claim a larger right. Therefore, that right which your husband could have claimed, you can have. The fantastic judgment. One has to rather read the purpose for which the enactment was made. It should not be diluted in any form. This is so far as the coparcenary and the rights of the women is concerned, as well as the error that has been committed. Let me go to section 6 now. The amended section 6, as the amended provision under section 6, on and from the date of commencement of the Hindu Succession Amendment Act in a joint Hindu family governed by a Mitakshara, the daughter of a Koparsana, by birth she comes. Kindly see, the coparcenary is not destroyed. The coparcenary is retained. The right is conferred upon a daughter. The question is, the entire argument that was posed before the court, as well as in several other arguments, was there is, by death of the father, the coparcenary goes. If you kindly come to section 6.3, it speaks of where a male dies after the commencement of the Hindu Succession Act. His interest in the property of the joint family, governed by Mitakshara law, shall devolve by testamentary and intestate succession as the case may be, under this act, and not by survivorship, as if a partition has taken again. Then the entire issue is, if you see an entire division in respect of 6.3, can you rather envisage section, can you envisage any allotment under the very same provision under 6.3a? Kindly see section 6.3a now. It speaks about the daughter allotted the same share as is allotted to a son. If it is going to be a division there, a destruction of the Hindu family and a destruction of an Hindu Mitakshara, you stop with section 6.2 and then say there had been a death and therefore a division had taken place, go to 8. Did not do that. On the other hand, it says a male dies, his share in the property goes in favor of the son. The lady is there, the daughter is also taken as a whole, given an equal share. The entire purpose for which I had given the 174th report. 174th report, there is also an error. I will also point out where exactly the error is. But the issue is, they did not want to see the destruction of the family. They only wanted the daughter to be a beneficiary on par with the son. The very purpose of introducing the daughter under section 6, right by birth under clause 6.1, then on the death of a person on the day on which the father is alive, on the date on 9/9/2005, the daughter also gets a right in respect of the property by birth. I would say, let me put it as by birth. She gets a right. She rather enjoys along with the son. If it is going to be a division as contemplated, what about the widow? We rather ignore the widow here. If there is going to be a division, what happens to the widow? Is there not an incongruity in the framing of section 6 now? If you see the death of a male member and a division contemplated, the division shall go as according to clause 8. If it goes under section clause 8, then the beneficiary should be the wife, the widow, the children. Here, the division takes place, the daughter is given the benefit, the daughter is made a co-partner on par with that of the son. We don't speak about the daughter. In case the absence of daughter, son, that also 5 classes of people has been spoken to. The entire issue is, throughout the co-partnership system was sought to be maintained, even under this enactment, it was not sought to be destroyed. Why I say there is an error in the 174th report. If you kindly come to page 23, as a first reaction, the Law Commission was inclined to recommend the adoption of a Kerala model. Firstly, what is a Kerala model? Abolition of the Hindu system. In toto, as it had abolished the right by birth of the males in the Mitakshara Upasanari and brought an end to the joint family. This is precisely what I was telling you. In 1951, it was contemplated. The parliamentarian said, no, not necessary. 174th report, it was contemplated. They also said, let us not abolish it. This appeared to be a fair to women as they did not have any right by birth. But on a further examination, it became clear that if a Hindu joint family is abolished as on date and there are only male co-partners, then they would hold as tenants in common and women would not get anything more than what was already entitled to by inheritance under section 6 of the HSA. So the commission reviewed that they would be better to make a first daughter partners like sons, so that they would be entitled to get their share on partition, included in the co-partnership. If they want a division, a share in the partition, or on the death of the male co-partner, and hold thereafter as tenants in common. So this aspect is made very clear. We recommend accordingly. Where exactly the mistake is, I will point out, or on the death of a male co-partner, and hold thereafter as tenants in common. Once I enter and hold the property along with a co-partner, I am treating my sister as a male now. There is no difference between a male and a female. When it only increases the number of shares, the gender is abolished. Here, all of us hold the property as joint tenants, unless there is an expression to rather demolish or rather restructure by filing a suit for partition or expressing an intention to divide. The question of rather division doesn't arise. All of us are joint tenants and not tenants in common unless we exercise our right to divide from the family property. Why I point out to this provision? Even under section 6 amended provisions of the 2005, the law did not contemplate upon division, it only contemplates upon continuance. Section 8 rather comes into operation only if we are dealing with, if, let me simply, let us not browbeat the entire issue. I will put it straight. Whenever a joint family property comes into the hands of a class 1, why I use the word class 1? I am treating those persons who are entitled to a property on the death of a co-partner. The entirety of the property continues to be joint unless those persons who constitute the co-partnership thinks of rather dividing themselves from one another. Secondly, a division is not one which is rather which could be imputed by the parliament or which is imputed by the legislature. It is an intention of the party whether they should continue to be in the family or to move out. In fact, here again, I have very serious rather reservation so far as the provision is concerned, where they would say it should be on 2012-2014 unless otherwise it's going to be a registered instrument. I won't accept the division. The law so far as Hindu is concerned, a division comes on demand. You don't require the two aspects which Mr. Subramaniam had dealt with. Let me rather place for your consideration. It doesn't demand a suit being filed. It doesn't demand a final degree being. So let me complete, then thereafter I will take you to so far as section 6.5 is concerned. Therefore, when we deal with section 6, 6.1 introduces the lady. 6.3 on the death of a male co-partner, the lady is introduced. The only deeming feature, both in Prakash versus Pulvati and various other cases where you find the presence of the co-partner, namely the father, should be available as on 9/9/2005 to enable him to make a claim in respect to the property. Otherwise, they don't have a right. The father should be alive for the daughter to claim a right in the co-partner. This is so far as 6.1 and 6.3 is concerned. Both these provisions could, if you see the earlier act as well as the amended act, if you construe it in a way treating the co-partner intact, do not direct the aid to come in, there is no confusion at all. Keep Gurupad away, as Gurupad did not contemplate or rather did not look into the legislative intent while the judgment was delivered. Go to 1985 Supreme Court of His Lordship Justice Venkatramayya, where he had explained Gurupad. The property on the death of a co-partner continues to be a co-partner property. It cannot assume the character of self-acquisition so far as a portion, then co-partner in respect of the rest. If this clarification is made, there is no dispute, as Mr. Subramaniam had said, there are separate property in the hands and co-partner on the other. So far as Justice Subramaniam is concerned, he is bound to follow the law. As far as law is concerned, we can say the law is wrong. He is under constraint, we are not. Then let us go to the other aspect, namely 6.5. 6.5 says, nothing contained in this section shall apply to a partition which had been affected before 20th of December 2004. Why this 20th of December 2004? This 20th of December 2004 had been introduced because the date on which the Parliament had passed it. It's a noble and laudable idea. But as far as partition is concerned, Justice Srinivasan in 1991 Supreme Court, Madras was right when he said, unless required for a final degree proceedings. Sai Reddy in 1993 Supreme Court made a small error where a suit for partition was pending between the brothers. A preliminary decree was passed. At that stage, matter goes to the Supreme Court. The law has come into force. The Andhra Pradesh Act had come into force. An application was filed for amendment by the ladies where they said we are entitled to a share. Supreme Court said, since a final degree had not been passed, we can rather make you a party. Entire principle of Hindu law was given a go back. What is partition according to Hindu law? When I asked my father, Mr. Gentleman, I don't want to continue to live with you, rather give my share. There starts my right in the property gets crystallized. I don't say that. Supreme Court says in 1968 Supreme Court page 1018, 1938 Madras page 390, both these judgments if you look into, the severance is a matter of intention of the parties. The party, once he makes a demand, there it ends. I also see proceedings of 1925 Privy Council, page 49. The matter goes up till the apex, to the extreme or other proceeding. A gentleman wants to withdraw the case. His entire case was by withdrawal of a proceeding, my intention effaces. Privy Council says no. Once you have made your intention to either divide from the property or divide from the family, your rights in respect of the property gets crystallized, and therefore it can't be rather revived unless otherwise there is going to be a reunion in the strict form of our law. This was rather overlooked by the Supreme Court. Supreme Court in Sai Reddy says final degree proceedings. Later judgments also says final degree proceedings. Shaker followed that. Then thereafter another two more judgments have come where they would say as long as the final degree proceedings are degree is passed, the proceedings have not attained a finality. With due respect to the judges, you should go into the earlier judgments. The intention was to divide. Once I divide, let me assume a case. Once I make a demand to my father is a gentleman. He says, "Get away, take your property and walk away." The division is complete. Can anybody say final degree proceeding where the fluctuation is on account of the court proceedings? It is not the intention of the parties. The court delays the matter. At some point of time, some law is made and the court is going to say, this is going to be a share. This is illogical. So what has to be seen is, you fix my right the day on which I make my demand. Fix the day on which I file the suit. You can take it as a day on which I rather made a demand. The entire position of law had been altered on account of the fact saying final degree proceedings. This is my very respectful submission. Rather ignores the fundamental genesis of our law, where it says a division means a demand. Once I make a demand, there it ends. There may be many cases. Before 2014, there may be cases by which a division had been made not by rather filing a suit, not by rather registering a document. A family arrangement is recognized. A oral division and agreement is recognized. There are many forms of division. Entire forms of division have been ignored by the court. If one takes into consideration 1968 Supreme Court page 1018, the issue would have been different. Therefore, my very humble rather request to the members, let us not assume the judgment that has been delivered as final. Section 6 requires to be rather interpreted logically. Section 8 also requires to be looked into in terms of an intention made by a member of the family under Section 6 for a division. Restrict Section 8 to the individual or separate property of the father or the male member. Do not mix up the coparcenary with the property under Section 8. The entire confusion would stop. This would be my very humble request to my learned friends. Then come to Srinath and Valliyappan have raised an issue, a very interesting issue. Srinath says, by virtue of deleting the explanation under section, Valliyappan.
It's not Valliyappan, sir.
Valliyappan. Both the articles were very interesting. One says, as the deletion of explanation under section 6.2, rather explanation 2 to section 6 enables a person to assert a right in respect of the property. I think it's very difficult to accept. Let me say how. As far as ILR 5 Madras, judgment of Justice Muthuswamy Iyer, which was followed in 1929 Madras page 865, the book. A full bench of the Madras High Court, of which Justice Anantha Krishna Iyer, the judgment is a very important one. It's a judgment in 1929 Madras page 865, Narayana Shah. The entire issue before the court was they doubted ILR 5 Madras page 362 and therefore the matter was referred. The issue was, what is the effect of a divided sum? Valliyappan says the explanation should be looked into. The deletion of 6-2 is fatal. A divided son could make a demand. Here, I would rather file a caveat against it. The issue is, a son is already divided. He moves out of the coparcenary. Now the entire issue is, the father, let me take an example of father, 3 sons, and a daughter. We will keep the daughter aside. One of the son moves away from the family. He is not a coparcenary. Now the entire, if my case of rather 8 not being rather introduced into section 6 is taken into consideration. Because if you might remember where I said, do not mix up section 8 and section 6. If according to Valliyappan, apply section 8, he also get a right. If Valliyappan claims more, if Valliyappan's example is taken into consideration, the divided brother moves out. So far as section 6 is concerned, his interest in the coparcenary property, it doesn't say his individual property, coparcenary property. If in the coparcenary property, if divided son is there, he doesn't get a right even under the old Hindu law. The court says under equity, a divided son will not have a right in the property that belongs to the family. Therefore, he moves away. I'm not going to Srinath Sridevan's example. Srinath Sridevan relies upon a judgment, which judgment had been rather looked into by the full bench, and then they said that may not have an application. 29 Madras deals specifically with that particular aspect. So the entire issue is, if the son moves out, if the divided son moves out, the share goes only to the 2 sons and the daughter. It is a coparcenary property. It is not an individual property. So far as an individual property is concerned, which my father might have, which their father might have, he would be entitled to a share under section 8. Not if on a division, he takes a share, moves away, he doesn't have a right. What would be the equity, you kindly see? If according to Valliyappan, his son, that gentleman who has moved away from the family gets a right. At the time of division, he would be getting around 1/4. Now the daughter has stepped in. Father is alive, the daughter has stepped in. On the death of the father, he is deemed that to be alive. Then in that case, his share of 1/4, once again, this gentleman gets, it diminishes the share of the rest of the people. This should not be allowed, was the judgment of 1929 Madras Full Bench. Oh, my very respectful rather submission so far as Mr. Valliyappan is concerned, the fact that 6-2 had been rather removed would make no change. Ultimately, it is the court which has to see equity in division. After all, once a man takes the property and walks away, he can't rather come in and then say, yes, I have a right in respect of this property as well, unless he is able to establish his father had any independent property other than the coparcenary property. Or I would rather say 29 Madras would answer both. In fact, the issue that was posed for consideration, one has to read ILR 5 Madras of His Lordship Justice Muthuswamy Iyer, one of the finest legal brain. It is anomalous to hold that in a case where 2 brothers, each of whom have several sons and grandsons, desire to separate, all the members should be forced to separate the sons and grandsons from their father and grandfather. These are arguments have been adduced. I will not trouble yourself. I will just point out what exactly had happened. There were 3 branches. Out of one branch, one of the brothers said, I will walk away. They gave him their share and he walked away. 1 from one branch and 2 from the other branches were together. At some point of time, a division had to take place. Then the entire issue is, should it take per tribes or should it take per capita? The court said, so far as those persons, they also took into consideration the share of the divided brother, pooled into it. Thereafter, trial court gave him 2.5 in the place of, he demanded 3, they gave 2.5. They said so far as the share that was already taken by the other brother in the branch, he is entitled to rather take it into consideration, and thereafter the division was effected. In respect of 2, it was per stripes. So far as his share is concerned, where division has already taken place, it was done by per capita. Yes, any questions?
Yes, Lordship, NABJ, I think Lordship can interact with Mr. Raghavacharya.
Fabulous, sir. Fabulous. Najimave, the depth and the effort that has been taken by you, these 30 pages must be retained by everybody, and they have to go through this for a thorough understanding of the whole scope of personal property. In fact, you have now made us all think of how we have to see Section 6 and Section 8 completely in an independent manner, and not to unnecessarily read 8 into 6. Looks like that was the reason why the whole confusion happened.
Thank you, Ji.
Let me move to Praveen Sethia. Mr. Praveen, you can talk to Mr. Raghavacharya.
Hello, sir. Good evening.
Hello, Pa.
Sir, just have a question. Can a daughter claim a right over the property, over the co-parsonage property, when her father had died prior to the commencement of Amendment Act 2005?
Their entire reason is, if you see Section 6.3, it says to be a co-parson, claiming under the co-parsoner. Kindly see 6.3 now.
Yes, sir.
In fact, it has been, whether it is retroactive, I would rather request you to see 2014 Bombay page 151, a full bench of the Bombay High Court. They would have considered provisions. Which are the provisions are retroactive, which are the provisions are prospective. In fact, if you, I just point out to Section 6.3, where a Hindu dies after the commencement of the act. Have you got it?
Yes.
Where a Hindu dies after the commencement of the act, his interest in the property, in the joint family property. Therefore, you should keep him alive for the purposes of rather seeking a division.
Yes, sir.
The gentleman should be, the father should be alive for the purposes of a daughter to make a demand. If you see 2014 Bombay, AR 2014 Bombay page 151, it would say clause A of subsection 1 is prospective in operation. Clause B and C and other of subsection 1 are retroactive in operation. It is immaterial whether the girl was born before or after 1956. All of them are entitled to a right. This seems to be a correct view so far as the rather fixing the rights of the
Name display.
daughter is concerned.
Yes, yes. Proceed, sir. Proceed, sir.
Yes, sir.
Salma,
He is waiting to hear you.
Prithvi, the entire issue is the father should need to make a demand.
Fine, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Ba.
I now request Mr. Armugam to talk to you. Mr. Armugam.
Yes,
Mr. Armugam.
Mr. Raghu. Yes, yes, Mr. Raghu. I have very good depth explanation as to the vapor of the clouds formed in the Hindu Succession Act. Hello?
Thank you, Ji.
Hello? Are you hearing me? Sherry, if is a female before the father die, as a matter of right, according to you, can ask for partition?
As soon as she becomes a co-parsoner under 6.2.6.1, on from the date of commencement of the Hindu Succession Act, by birth she becomes a co-parsoner in her Bharatiya Paramadharva language, how they use.
Yes, 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 yes.
In her own right, in the same manner, would make a demand on the father for division.
According to the explanation, a female cannot be a co-partner.
Pardon?
You're hearing me?
கேக்குறது.
Yes. According to the co-partner act, the female cannot be a co-partner, but under the act, she can entitle as a equal share along with the son.
She can make a demand.
Suppose the property is co-partner property, the daughter can ask as a matter of right in that co-partner property.
Precisely.
That is my question.
Precisely, she can. The reason is simple. On and from the date of commencement of the act, you introduce the daughter by birth as a co-partner. In her own right.
Yes.
In her own right.
It is.
The gender.
It is. That amendment only is the prospective, not retrospective.
ஆமா சார். அமெண்ட்மெண்ட்டை பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் அப்பா இருக்கணும். அப்பா இருந்தா ரைட்டை கொடுக்குறோம். அந்த ரைட் விட்டு அவளுக்கு வந்து பார்ட்டிஷன் அதிகாரம் வந்துருது.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, sir. Then let me move to Jesse Jeevapriya.
Sir, good evening, sir. So, in the matter, sir, preliminary degree has been passed between father and two sons. Previously, preliminary degree has been passed, each 1/3 share. Thereafter, unmarried daughter, she filed a suit and got a proportion of the property in her father's share. But here what happened, till the death of father, the properties were not partitioned to meets and bounds. So she filed a final degree petition, but now the problem is, which property is allotted to his father is unknown. There is no evidence. Only preliminary degree passed, giving each 1/3 share, but the properties were partitioned.
அம்மா அவ அப்பாக்கு கொடுத்தாலோ கொடுக்கலையோன்றது வேண்டாம். When did her father die?
Now 1998.
98 லியா?
He filed a suit as per 89 amendment.
Point is simple, ma. So far, in the case of பொறுத்த வரைக்கும், she is claiming under the father தான்.
Father.
Not claiming under the Hindu Succession Act of 2005. So whatever that has been allotted to the father, it's only a preliminary degree. Preliminary degree la vandu it is only a declaration of share. No particular item. No. Preliminary degree la it is only a declaration of a share. No particular item is allotted. Therefore, if you are able to final degree la தான் உங்களுக்கு எந்தெந்த ப்ராப்பர்ட்டி னே தெரியும்.
Final degree la தான்.
எந்தெந்த ப்ராப்பர்ட்டி உங்களுக்கு தெரியவே வேண்டாம். In case the schedule of property is available, the daughter can seek for division in respect of the 1/3 of her father's share.
First share. Okay. In the final degree application. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
One Mr. VP is there. I just ask him, and you can. Mr. VP, your full name is not displayed. VP.
Hello, sir. Can you hear me? Sir, my question is. Hello.
சொல்லுங்க சார்.
Sir, my question is, daughter is now a co-partner.
Yes, sir.
As per the amended provisions, what happens to that co-partner daughter's property? Does it devolve again like a co-partnery or under section 15?
இல்லையம்மா 6(2) பாருங்களேன். 6(2) பாத்தீங்கன்னா properties to which a female becomes entitled to by virtue of subsection 1 shall be held by her with incidence of co-partnership.
Yes, sir. She is treated on par with a son.
Amma.
So therefore, the property in the hands of the daughter who has now been elevated as a co-partner, should it not be again partible amongst her children? Does it not assume the character?
What you say is right, but kindly see section 6(2) for a minute. There seems to be some confusion here. All property to which a female Hindu becomes entitled to by virtue of subsection 1 shall be held by her with the incidence of co-partnership ownership.
True, sir.
Shall be regarded notwithstanding anything contained in this act or any other law for the time being in force as property capable of being disposed of by her by testamentary disposition. That means they give her a right, treat her as a co-partnership property, and ultimately it is going to be a women property, female property that can
does section 15 not lose its effect, sir, because of the fact that the daughter has become a co-partner now?
Then to whom will the property go? are we going to rather envisage a division?
So there will be a co-partnery, the property in the hands of the separate co-partner will again be a co-partnery property, which is partible with the children.
True. In fact, if you just see section 6 பொறுத்த வரைக்கும், we confer a right upon the lady.
Yes, sir.
That right, we call it a coparcenary right so far as she is concerned. In the event of her death, we have not envisaged a mode by which the property rather should be enjoyed.
Yes, sir.
Male normal section போடுறோம், ஐடென்டிஃபை பண்றோம். செக்ஷன் இவ்வளவு பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் coparcenary property ன்னு வரும்போது you have to necessarily fall back only upon section 15 because it is a property of a female.
Yes, sir.
Therefore, as you rightly pointed out earlier, for divisional purposes, it can only be under 15.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Anna,
Sir.
I'll connect next person. You have to identify who is he. And his name is NSSJ.
It's a hypothetical question. Let's go by the law as it was prior to 1978 Justice Chandrachud's judgment.
By 2019 11 scale 704, Justice Kaul he follows 1985 Madras which I have said, 85 Supreme Court which I have said. I'll note பண்ணிக்கோங்க வேணும்.
2019 scale
11 scale 704. Justice Kaul judgment along with Joseph.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
No, the whole idea is, we are not discussed about 29A vis-a-vis section 6. The context, suppose a married daughter, an unmarried daughter who has laid a suit for partition when the father is alive. And then the suit is pending. The father also has a married daughter. What would be the effect as on the date of coming into force of Act 39 of 2005?
All depends upon when the father died. If the father is alive.
No, father still alive. Father still alive.
Father still alive, she can treat herself as a copartner, move an appropriate application for amendment.
No. The whole idea is that one of the daughters will be is a married daughter. Another daughter is an unmarried daughter.
That is where I am coming to.
No. The whole idea is, if going by the traditional, the classical Hindu law, as it originally stood, the day I move for my share gets crystallized. The day I demand my share as an unmarried daughter, my share gets crystallized. But during the pendency of the suit, somebody becomes a co-partner by virtue of amended section 6. Now, how are you going to fit in that? Whether that share, the daughter's share must be accommodated in the father's share, the rest of the co-partner's share, or whether the unmarried daughter's share, the original plaintiff share gets diminished to that extent. Going by subsequent authorities, it will diminish. By going by your statement, it should not diminish.
How did she maintain a suit while the father is alive in the property?
It becomes a co-partner under 29A.
The suit was filed prior to 2005.
After 29A,
I'll come to that. If she is going to be unmarried daughter,
participants.
if she is
I'll repeat it. She is an unmarried daughter under section 29 and files a suit for partition. Father alive, and Act 39 comes in. The father also has a married daughter. Now, where you fit in the married daughter's share in the treating the plaintiff as a divided daughter as on the date she demanded partition, and allow the share in the rest of the properties of the co-partnery, or because under amended section 6 under Act 39, matrimonial status is not a criteria for qualifying as a co-partner. Only under 29A it was there.
Judge, can I only say this? On the day in 1989 when she had instituted the suit, she wouldn't have made her sister as a party to the proceeding because she is not this other system have been made a party to the proceeding. As
intent to divide has come on the day.
நான் முடிச்சிடுறேன். 1989ல வந்து அன்மேரிட் டாட்டர் அந்த ஆக்ட் பிரகாரம் சூட்டு போடும்போது மேரிட் டாட்டர் வந்து பார்ட்டியா போடுறதுக்கு வாய்ப்பு இல்லை. இஸ் நாட் அ ஷேர் ஹோல்டர். In 2005, the share is being conferred immaterial of the fact whether they are married or not, provided the father is alive. What would be the position if the daughter, married daughter, institutes a suit? She is entitled to a share. Would you agree or not?
No. He is definitely entitled to a share. The point is,
Mudikila. She is entitled to a share in respect of the property. Your question is whether I have to apportion the share in respect of that particular married lady, or fixing it based upon the earlier system of law, where a demand is required for division for crystallization. Rather,
not exactly that. The question I asked was, on the date when the unmarried daughter laid the suit within the rights she acquired under section 29A, she has already expressed her intent to divide from the co-partnery. She has, and going by the classical Hindu law view, her share gets crystallized as on the date. But the suit is still pending, and the married daughter also steps in. Yeah, in whose share the married daughter will be given if the law has to rewritten?
She should be treated.
Whether the plaintiff's right will get diminished or
yes. If you want me to apply the classical case where the entirety of the property should be taken into consideration, a division should be worked out. If you are going to ask me, going by the strict rule of law, letters of law, where a division had already taken place, exclude that portion of her property, the remaining property which has to be
wonderful. Because the married daughter, for all practical purposes, must be treated as an afterborn child.
Exactly.
Because she becomes a co-partner later.
But let me rather also say this. Unless otherwise, Sai Reddy is clarified.
Precisely.
Unless otherwise, Sai Reddy is clarified, and the 1978 Supreme Court is read. So then, there is a larger matter has been referred to a larger bench. In the Supreme.
But then Geeta versus Kumar is also there. Geeta versus Kumar is also there.
Vineet case refer pannirga. In case the Supreme Court is going to rather confine itself only to whether it is prospective or retrospective. On the confusion that has been created in various courts, I would rather expect them to rather enlarge the scope of the proceeding and answer issues which troubles many of the people here. In fact, in the confusion of right from 1978, if they are going to set at naught, many of the litigation would come to an end.
Actually, originally I thought section 14 of the Tamil Nadu Building and Rent Control Act was a huge confusion, whether building requires demolition or landlord intent demolition. The pendulum was swinging so widely. Now section 6, nobody knows where it stands.
It's a lawyer's paradise.
Pardon?
It's a lawyer's paradise.
Anyway, it's a great job you have done. I mean, amazing job. I must tell you, the way you expounded Kalpana Chettiar, and it was a wonderful hearing. In fact, after a very long time. Thank you, SSR. In fact,
we'll make some arrangements. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Now, Raguna, Sivashakti Dharmalingam is waiting in the line. Sivashakti Dharmalingam.
Yes, sir.
So you can talk to Mr. Raghavan.
Sir, good evening, sir.
Good evening, sir.
Sir, according to section 6, in the co-personary property எப்போ end ஆகுது, எப்போ continue ஆயிட்டு இருக்கு?
Sir, co-personary property end ஆகாது so long as if male is there. Now that male is also introduced. Male வாரிசு இருக்கிற வரைக்கும் co-personary property continue ஆயிட்டே இருக்கும்.
பட் செக்ஷன் 6ல பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் எந்த ப்ரொவிஷனுமே எப்போ கண்டினியூ ஆகுது அப்படிங்கிற ப்ராசஸை மென்ஷன் பண்ணாம.
சார், இந்த செக்ஷனே co-personary propertyக்கு தானே. Co-personary is not defined. Kindly see the provisions. Co-personary என்ற ஒரு கான்செப்ட் இந்து லால வருது. It's a school of Hindu law. if you see the various definition that has been made, இதுல வந்து உங்களுக்கு மர்மகட்டாயத்துக்கெல்லாம் ஏதாவது போட்டிருப்பானே தவிர as அலிய சந்தானா போட்டிருப்பாங்க, காக்னேட் இருக்கும், எல்லாம் இருக்குமே தவிர கொப்பார்சனரி ஸ்கூல் where right is recognized by birth through males. அதனால தான் நான் ஆரம்பிக்கும் போதே சொன்னேன், ஒன்னு ஜாயிண்ட் ஃபேமிலி ப்ராப்பர்ட்டி, ஒன்னு வந்து உங்களுக்கு ancestral ப்ராப்பர்ட்டி அண்ட் கொப்பார்சனரி ப்ராப்பர்ட்டி. கொப்பார்சனரி ப்ராப்பர்ட்டின்றது வந்து உங்களுக்கு இட்ஸ் a larger group. இந்து ஜாயிண்ட் ஃபேமிலின்னு வரும்போது அந்த ப்ராப்பர்ட்டி இருந்தாலும் இருக்கலாம், இல்லானாலும் இருக்கலாம். Not necessarily you should hold the property to be a co-partner. The family is treated, it's something like a group. Nasa நம்ம எப்படி வாழ்ந்தோம், குரூப் உருவா வாழ்ந்தோம். It's like what you call, இப்போ வந்து நீங்க ஆப்பிரிக்கால வந்து ட்ரைப் மாதிரி வாழ்ந்த மாதிரி தான் வாழ்ந்தோம். At some point of time we got property, we settled. The entire property was enjoyed by all. And each of them had a different school. ஒன்னு மயூகா ஸ்கூல்னு போனா, நம்மளை பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் ஸ்மிருதி சந்திரிகான்னு வந்தது. இன்னொரு ஸ்கூல் தயபாகா ஸ்கூல் had its own. The rishis have framed different forms of schools. இப்ப நம்மளை பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் கொப்பார்சனரி நம்ம வரும்போது it is a school which is in existence where a law was made. அவ்வளவுதான். ஒரு பர்டிகுலர் ஒரு டிராபிக் ரெகுலேஷனுக்கு லா போடுற மாதிரி இந்த ஃபேமிலி லாக்கு ஒரு லா போட்டாங்க. அவ்வளவுதான். சொல்லுங்க சார்.
தேங்க்யூ. அடுத்தது ஒன் மிஸ்டர் மோத்திலால் இஸ் ரைட்டிங் அந்த லைன். மிஸ்டர் மோத்திலால்.
Sir, good evening, sir.
Good evening, sir.
Sir, if a Hindu male died intestate, his self-acquired property devolves to his mother, wife, and children. And property is yet to be partitioned. Subsequently, mother also died. What will happen to the share of the mother?
Share of the mother, sir, இப்போ ஒரே சன்னு தானா?
ஒரு son, ஒரு daughter, ஒரு wife, plus ஒரு mother.
ஒரு சன்னு, ஒரு டாட்டர், ஒரு மதர்.
வைஃப் அண்ட் மதர். வைஃப் அண்ட் மதர்.
வைஃப் அண்ட் மதர். அம்மா பையனுக்கு இருக்கு. இப்ப அம்மாவுக்கு வந்து வேற ஏதாவது குழந்தை இருந்தா குழந்தைக்கு போகும், இல்லன்னா ப்ராப்பர்ட்டி வந்து திருப்பி இதே ஃபேமிலிக்கு தான் வரும்.
ஓ, வேற குழந்தை இருக்கு மதருக்கு.
டாட்டர் இருக்கா?
மதருக்கு குழந்தை இருக்கு.
டாட்டர்.
மதருக்கு வேற டாட்டர் இருந்தா டாட்டர் will also have a share in the property.
சன் இருந்தா சார், சன்
15 வந்துரும் சார், செக்ஷன் 15 ல அப்ளை ஆகும்.
15 ல வந்துரும்.
ஓகே சார், ஓகே சார். Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
One Mr. Pasambon Shanmugayya. Pasambon Shanmugayya.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, sir.
சார் நான் கடைசியா தான் ஜாயின் பண்ணேன். அதான் ஒரே ஒரு சின்ன டவுட். உத்தம் சிங் ஓவருக்கு ஹைட் ஆகலையா சார்?
ஃபாதர் செத்து போன உடனே there is a division ஆறுதுன்ற. அதுக்கப்புறம் he rather earmarks a share. Suit was filed by one of Saulne ஒருத்தனோட அவனோட சன் ஒருத்தன் போடுறான். செகண்ட் சன் or third son ஓட சன் வந்து கிராண்ட் சன் files. He holds the suit as not maintainable. What he forgets is when there is a break in coparcenate, when the gentleman dies, his interest in the property is a subject matter of distribution. It is not the coparcenary which the other four sons are together. இந்த 4 sons ஒண்ணா இருக்கான். அப்பா செத்து போயிடுறான். அப்பா செத்து போன உடனே அந்த கோபார்சனரியில இருக்கிற ப்ராப்பர்ட்டி டிஸ்ட்ரிபியூட் ஆகும். இந்த கோபார்சனரி உடையல. இட் இஸ் இன்டாக்ட். கோபார்சனரியில ஒரு சன் சூட்டு போடுறான். He says the suit is not maintainable. Literally speaking, as far as the interpretation of section 8 in this Uttam is concerned, it is absolutely wrong. You are right. Uttam, the grandson is entitled to maintain a suit in respect of the property which his father had, even in respect of the property which the grandfather had, in the absence of the gentleman bequeathing a will or disposing of in a manner known to law. This property also comes in family. That's 1985 Supreme Court. This, when it comes into the hands of the son, available for division and in the hands of the grandson. Nariman said grandson cannot maintain a suit. Paragraph 19 பாருங்க. Applying the law to the facts of the case, it is clear that the death of Jagannath in 1973, Tata, the joint family property which is ancestral property in the hands of Jagannath and the other co-partner, devolved by succession under 8. Model. To that extent, all the 4 are together, the co-partner is alive. He is not right.
Let me move to Mr. Balaji. Mr. Balaji.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, you can talk to him.
During the course of your lecture, you said the intention of the section 6 is to preserve the co-partnership, sir. Sir, can you hear me, sir?
சொல்லுங்க சார்.
Sir, during the course of your lecture, you said the intention of the amended act is to preserve the concept of co-partnership.
Yes, sir.
So now my question is, when shares continuously devolve under section 8, as and when a death takes place, and every time the share will diminish in the entirety, will it not at one point of time become non-extinct? This is my question, sir.
Simple, sir. Why do you go to section 8 now? That is what I was telling you. Never treat the person, the male member who had died as never treat the male member who had died in the family as if the property goes under section 8. Treat that property along with the property under section 6. அப்படியே co-partnership property-ஆவே treat பண்ணுங்க. Only in the event of some person wants to move out, அந்த சமயத்துல you apply section 8. But let me make it very simple. There are 4 sons, mother and sister. Sister also becomes a co-partnership 5. Mother has a share in the husband's property. Property, our share எவ்வளவு வருதோ, she wants to partition the property, she can file a partition, carve out that limited interest that she has in the property and she can take it away. The rest of the property will remain or retain the character of co-partnership.
So then my clarification that I require is,
இல்ல என்ன ப்ராப்ளம் ஆகுதுன்னா, the present interpretation that is being given by the Supreme Court, right? Present interpretation given by the Supreme Court at some point of time might destroy the system of co-partnership. Might destroy. The reason is, every time you are going to say there is going to be a division in the family on the death of a co-partner, attract section 8. At some point of time, the entirety of the property would vanish as co-partnership and becomes individual property.
sir, does it not amount to the intention of the act, sir?
Act doesn't intend, sir. Act அப்போ co-partnership னு சொல்லணும்.
Then why was 8 introduced, sir?
Sir, that is என்னோட entire case உங்க முன்னாடி நான் வெச்சதே 8 introduce பண்ணதுக்கு காரணமே, it is on a separate property. Kindly see the section now.
Yes, sir.
The problem is section 6 speaks about co-partnership property. Section 8 says very clearly the property of a male Hindu.
Yes, sir.
அப்பா வந்து வக்கீலா இருந்து சம்பாதிச்சிருக்கலாம். அவர் சம்பாதிச்ச சொத்து ப்ராப்பர்ட்டி ஆஃப் a male Hindu.
Yes, sir.
எங்க குடும்ப சொத்து இருந்திருக்கலாம்.
Yes.
குடும்ப சொத்துல எங்க அப்பாக்கு ஷேர், எனக்கு ஷேர், நான் பொறுத்த ஒண்ணு வந்துரும்.
Yes.
இந்த ப்ராப்பர்ட்டியை பேசும்போது நான் கொபார்ஷனரி. செக்ஷன் 8 அப்ளை ஆகுது எங்க அப்பா இண்டிவிஜுவலா சம்பாதிச்ச ப்ராப்பர்ட்டி. இப்போ ப்ராப்ளம் என்ன ஆகுதுன்னா, கொபார்ஷனரி ப்ராப்பர்ட்டியும் இண்டிவிஜுவலா சம்பாதிச்ச ப்ராப்பர்ட்டியும் நான் மிக்ஸ் பண்ண வேண்டாம்னு சொல்ல. இந்த சுப்ரீம் கோர்ட்ல பண்ண வேலை என்ன பண்ணிருக்காங்கன்னா, எங்க அப்பா செத்து போன உடனே அவருக்கு கொபார்ஷனரி ப்ராப்பர்ட்டியில இருக்கிற இன்ட்ரெஸ்ட வந்து செக்ஷன் 8 இன்ட்ரோடியூஸ் பண்றாங்க. ஏன்னா 8 இன்ட்ரோடியூஸ் பண்ணி பிரேக் பண்ணக்கூடாது. You allow the property to be enjoyed by all the persons including class 1. If any person want to carve out a division, take it. Let him file a suit for partition. As far as the character of the co-partnership is concerned, it should be retained. That was adukudana enna panna, it traced down the entire history of the legislation. The legislation says don't divide. Yes. Unfortunately, the Supreme Court said, Chandrachud said, introduced section 8 and divided the property. It is
then what is the implication of the new section 6, sir? Because on the death of a co-partner, they say either testamentary or under section 8. Then what is the implication?
Section 8 marli adla. Testamentary or testamentary?
Sorry, I stand corrected.
Yeah.
Section பழைய செக்ஷன்ல அதானே இருந்தது உங்களுக்கு.
அவஸ்லயே அப்படிதான் இருந்தது.
பழைய செக்ஷன் சார், பழைய செக்ஷன்லயே அப்படிதான் இருந்தது. உங்களுக்கு on a female being rather introduced, if there is going to be a female member, it is deemed there is a division. And the deemed division தான் notional division, not actual division. If you read deemed division as notional division, the problem ends.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank
Thank you, Nigel. And come to a conclusion whether what was intended by section 6 is actual division or a deemed partition. There lies the answer for all the questions.
Exactly. Just take 85 Supreme Court.
Yes, no.
Justice Venkatramaiah.
Venkatramaiah.
Everything is over. The question is the mode of succession to a daughter. If the daughter leaves behind her children, they are deemed co-partners under section 6.2. Then the succession is in the manner as specified therein. If it is going to be a case of an unmarried daughter, in that case you can treat it as a personal property, being the last co-partner, and the property would be dealt with in a mode of succession as contemplated under section 15. Am I right?
Yes, no. So I should wholeheartedly thank you for it is rather a research. It is not a nearest lecture or what is called a delivery of a speech.
First bill, the doing away with the term, that was not accepted when the second one was introduced. When the second one was introduced, they said we are retaining the co-partnership. Till at least 1978, there was no confusion.
We should thank you for the laborious effort you have taken and your team, of course.
I should thank everyone for patiently listening.
It's a very great evening. Thank you, Thanks a lot. Thank you.